everyone. My name is Mengyan Ma. I'm a assistant professor in the Department of Advertising Relations. And today I want to talk about my study, which is about understanding adolescents, their awareness, their concerns, their perceived barriers, and their strategy to avoid teaching-infused beverages. And it's an interview study. So before I get started to talking about what exactly I did, is like whenever I've been talking about this with a colleague or with people who are not really in my department or people who don't really know me that much, they were thinking that, okay, so in a department of advertising, are you talking about how we are going to promoting the products? And even for our participants, when I invited the families to my office having the conversation, they came to talk with me as like, are you giving me any sample to try? I mean, no, that is not my point. That is not my goal. So although in advertising department, our interest or especially my interest is to understand the influencer marketing's impact to our adolescents, to our children, to the younger generations, and also what kind of information we have to provide to them and as well as their parents. So this is one study of a bigger project. In the same project, we have been also interviewing parents. So this study today that I will be presenting is focusing on the adolescents. So I want to first introduce my students on this project. I have two PhD students in the same department, Mahisha and Yuxuan Wang in the Media Information Department, and also have two undergrad students who were our alumni, already graduated this year. And also thankful to Trifecta, who has funded my research for this project. Oh, sorry, just can't go away. Okay, over here. Oh. Sorry, it kind of froze from my end. Let me see. Sorry, froze. Okay. All right. So I want to give you a little background about this research. So because the rapid commercialization of the cannabis products in the United States, it has actually generated a new category of the consumer goods that actually really blurs or actually confuse people about what is the recreational substance and the mainstream lifestyle products, which is THC-infused beverages. So the influencer marketing on social media, they always actually position the THC beverages as natural, they are wellness enhancing, or they even talk about they are better than smoking or healthier alternatives of alcohol, which actually making people think about they are safe, they're trendy, or they are even beneficial. So research does shows that exposure to the influencer marketing advertising of the cannabis in more general actually contribute to the increasing use among U.S. adolescents and young adults. But because today we are going to talk about THC-infused beverages, and then it is not a really traditional cannabis that you can tell very like seriously clearly about what exactly it is. Sometimes those drinks, if you're looking into them the first time, you might not realize that it has the cannabis in there. You might just think that it's a soft drink, just a casual soft drink. So that's why in this study, we want to know about whether adolescents, they really realize what they are, where they have seen them before, they have came across with them before. So our first two questions are, what is the adolescent their awareness of the beverages, and what concerns do they have about the THC-infused beverages? So as for information-seeking behavior, information-seeking refers to active efforts people they are trying to make to find information when they want to better understand the issue or reduce uncertainty about possible consequences. And the BRIE, the Behavior and Risk Information Engagement Model, proposed that information seeking can actually influence behavioral decision because information individuals gather helps shape their beliefs and motivations regarding particular behavior. So we want to know like how adolescents they get engaged in information seeking and what are their trusted resources or sources for their health related information. And perceived barriers. The perceived barriers refer to the difficulties people believe that may prevent them from performing a particular behavior. And the health belief model identifies perceived barriers as one of the most influential factors shaping whether individuals adopt protective behaviors, as people are less likely to act when they believe a behavior will be difficult to perform. So we want to know about what are some barriers do adolescents perceive to avoid THC-infused beverages, and what are some potential prevention strategies do adolescents think that could help them to avoid the beverages? So upon we received an IRB approval, we recruited 17 adolescents aged 15 to 17 to the lab in the communication of college. I'm sorry, the College of Communication Arts and Sciences building, and then we had that in-person interview. And first, we got the signatures from their parents and also adolescents, making sure that their parents are aware about what the study is about. They're okay with their children to get involved in the study, and also we got at the same time we got signature from the adolescent, making sure they are also aware about the study purpose, the procedure of the study. And this is a semi-structured interview. It took about 45 to 70 minutes. So when we're talking with adolescents, it really varies. Some children, they are very talkative. Some of them are kind of hesitating to share. So it really varies from 45 to 70. And at the end of study, after our interview, and we give them a short survey to complete regarding the demographic information, we also offer them an education flyers, which actually mention about the definition of the THC-infused beverages, as well as some scientific impact of it. So some research that have already been done by the private researchers. So we want to make sure that they have a takeaway when they are leaving. We don't want to we don't want to trigger their interest about the product, but we want to make sure that they know what the product is about and some effect, some impact of the products. So this table I want to show you really quick about our participants among the 17 people. We have pretty much equally eventually distributed between their gender, and we have more white people than the other races, and we covered 15 to 17 years old, and so we have one in the ninth grade, we have more in the 10th grade, 11th grade, and the 12th grade, and also we ask about who are they living together with. So when we get into the data analysis, we have the interview recorded. Before we record their interview, we did ask their permission that are you okay with us recording this? And we have been using a software to transcript the audio recordings to the text. And then our research team have been reading through this and by listening the audio to making sure that the transcription is accurate. And then we have been analyzing the data using the Brown and Clark's flexive semantic analysis framework to kind of come together with some coding themes. And the three research team members have been kind of went through this palette coding at first and kind of compare the codings and then talking back and forth, adjust our code book, and then we coded the rest of the transcripts separately. So now getting to our results. So for our first question regarding to the awareness, so what we hear from our adolescent participants are they do have some kind of partial awareness about THC. They might have heard about this somewhere. They might have come across this somewhere, but they don't have a full understanding about what exactly it is. They do actually, when they're talking about THC, they normally refer to marijuana, they refer to cannabis, but they don't know enough about what THC infused beverages are. And actually, although they don't have the full understanding about THC beverages, but they do refer this kind of products to what they have known about cannabis or marijuana. So they have uncertainty about, but so they're talking about some potential impact they think the THC could bring to them, but they are still not quite sure about what some kind of short-term effects the product could bring to them because they don't have the full understanding. So partial awareness without a full understanding, some code I want to share with you. Participant 13 said, I knew there is candies and stuff, but beverages I've never heard of. Or participant 1 said, so this is like the drug in the drinks. So they do kind of have an idea about THC or cannabis again in general. But the specific products, they are not quite sure or quite familiar with that. So uncertainty regarding short-term effects, participant 10 said, I don't know too much about specific side effects. I suppose it's just what I have been told that is not good to do that. When you're young, I don't know the specific reasoning or things that will happen. Participant 5 said, I'd be nervous to try it because I don't know how my body would react. So they're not quite sure yet about what some effects of the products. So the same to the research question to you ask about the concerns. So they do have the concern about long-term addiction risk, as I said, because they do refer kind of the THC products to the more general cannabis marijuana. So they do believe that there should be some risk of the addiction. And they actually, besides the product themselves, they do have the skepticism toward the marketing claims regarding the wellness or healthier options, which is actually surprising because previous research always talking about adolescents, they didn't have enough advertising literacy or media literacy to understand the marketing or the advertising position as like what is right or what is wrong, and they're always being easily to be misled. But actually, our research shows that they actually, this generation, or at least our participants, the sample, they actually start realizing and they are having some critical thinking to think about, okay, I don't think that what marketing or advertising are saying are 100% accurate. So participant 11 said, I think addiction could be a big problem, and I think avoiding it will help you avoid addiction to cannabis. So again, they're referring the THC to cannabis in general. And participant 3 said drinks are something that is so easy to have. So like it's easier to have rather than just like smoking, like you could just have a drink all the time. And so you could become pretty dependent on it probably. And skepticism. They are marked, so they are talking about the messages that the products are marked as healthier alternative. I'm skeptical anything that affect your brain can have consequences. So research question 3. So what are their information seeking behavior? Well, what are their trusted sources? They're talking about parents as the primary and trust information source. Although the adolescents 15 to 17, they are building their independence, they are actually probably likely to be influenced by their peer, their brands, their classmates, but they are still talking about the parents as their most primary, most trusted sources for their information, especially health related. And they're also talking about school as both formal and informal channel of information, critical engagement with media content, and also they're talking about the reliance on the expert knowledge and credible information sources. So getting into more details. So participant 11 said, I have just talked to my parents about most health-related things. I know I can talk to them without any worries. They are never going to lie to me. They always want the best from me. And participant 6 said, probably school helps because I have had health classes, so they talk about that. I have just heard about it at school. My friends talking about that. So they're talking about school as a channel for information. It could be a formal, like kind of in a class, in an event, or in a workshop, but it could also be informal that what they hear from their friends in the school setting. As random post, I want to watch something that will actually make me think or learn something. So again, this is kind of relating back to the media content or advertising. So they have seen the messages on social media, and especially this generation, they are like very heavy social media users, but they don't trust everything on social media. And I probably would go to like the Mayo Clinic or somewhere is like .gov or pro athletes or physicians. So besides their parents, they are also referring to the health clinics or the medical providers for those health related information. So research question 4, barriers. So they've been talking about peer pressure as primary social vulnerability, the pervasive marketing exposure, increasing accessibility of the products, emotional vulnerability as a risk factor, aging and reduced parental supervision. So getting more details, participant 3 said, friends, if I have friends that enjoy it, and maybe I want to try it too. Surrounding yourself with people who do things you don't want to do, then it will make it harder. So they definitely talk about in this age, it's very likely that if their friends are doing it, and if the friends are inviting them to do this. And also I remember that some participants talking about if the friends told you that this is so cool, this feels great, then it's very likely that you want to try it as well. Pervasive marketing exposure, I feel like is like marketing messages just encouraging people to have it. Although we have been talking about previously that they are skeptical about media information, but the pervasive, the very bombard kind of like a media messages could actually still make some impact to our younger generation. And if they become more accessible, I might actually use them. So that's a problem of the increasing accessibility, because sometimes when we have more dispensaries around, and also if you go to a house of a friend, I remember that one child talked about that. She didn't personally interested about the product, but when she went to a friend's house who is elder than her, then she having seen the products in their friend's house. So that's another problem, is that it's not just accessibility in those stores, but also in your actually probably your friend's house. emotional vulnerability as a risk factor. So people talking about when I'm really stressed or emotional, it's easier to consider it. And if I was struggling with like my mental health, I might actually use them. And aging and reduced parental supervision. So being a little more separated from family, it'd be easier to fall into like bad habits. Once I get older, it's probably going to be there. So they do realize that under the supervision of their parents, they are likely trying to maintain the healthy, good habits, but also realize that once they are growing, once they are kind of like leaning away from their parents, it's more likely for them to build the bad habits.
Dr. Ma, I'm
So
really very sorry to interrupt you once again, but because of time constraint, I'd like to request you to wrap up in 1 or 2 minutes.
sure, I'm actually getting to the last few pages. Yeah, thank you. Prevention strategies. So engagement in alternative activities. I'm really busy with sports, hanging out with friends, so I don't really have time for that. And not being in those environments make it easier to stay away from it, or actually seeing what happens when people get addicted, and it's not good. So this is very interesting to us because they have been thinking about how what kind of strategies that they can prevent themselves from actually consuming those products. So now we are getting into discussion. So the previous research actually emphasized adolescents their limited knowledge, their risk-taking tendencies, or susceptibility to substance use. But actually, this study, our study shows that adolescents are not entirely unaware of the potential risk associated with cannabis-related products. So they actually have some idea, although they don't know fully understanding what are the long-term effect, what are the short-term effect, but they do understand that there might be some impact, some problem of the products. And even with limited product specific knowledge, adolescents demonstrated their awareness of the potential health consequences and addiction concerns. However, they have been talking about their ability to avoid use was often challenged by their peer pressure, increasing accessibility and normalization of the products. So getting to the very last of the presentation. So what we want to recommend is the public awareness campaigns, the guidance on how to cope with pressure to fit in and the fears of missing out, maybe even more important because they do have the peer pressure that they don't want to miss out something cool. They want to fit in, they want to feel belonging to a group and ensure access to mental health support because we did mention that some participants mentioned that when they are actually in a mental health issue, they are thinking to get help from the substance to get rid of their mental health. So actually we have to think about how we can making sure they have access to their mental health support and also destigmatize the conversation about mental health. So making sure that parents, teachers, we all know about what is going on with our children so we can provide the immediate support. And also, it is very important to provide guidance to parent and adolescent conversations because in the study actually shows that adolescents, they do think that they consider their parents as the primary sources for the health related information. Although they are building their independence, they are still trusting their parents as the most important resources. All right, I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ma, for your insightful presentation on understanding adolescents' awareness concerns. Our next presenter is Dr. Mukta Sharma, who will be presenting Small Events, Big Impact, a youth-led approach to postdoc community building. Please allow me to introduce Dr. Sharma. Dr. Mukta Sharma is a postdoctoral research associate at the Great Lakes Bioenergy Research Center at Department of Earth and Environmental Science at Michigan State University, where she applies machine learning and multimodal data pipelines to advance sustainable agricultural and environmental research. Originally from India, she holds a PhD in computer science with specialization in medical imaging from ABV Indian Institute of Information Technology and Management, India. A recent PNAS co-author and recipient of the MSU Postdoctoral Service Award 2026, Dr. Sharma is deeply committed to community building alongside her research. As a social subcommittee co-chair of the MSU Postdoctoral Association Steering Committee, she designed and led a year-round intercultural social programming initiative engaging 280 plus postdocs and their families across disciplines and nationalities. Her work bridges scientific excellence with human connection, reflecting her belief that inclusive communities are essential to global learning, and the growth of young scholars worldwide. Dr. Sharma, we are delighted to welcome you to this session. Please proceed with your presentation.
Everyone, my name is Mukta Sharma. I am the postdoctoral research scholar in MSU, and I'm also serving as from past year, serving as a co-chair of social subcommittee in a team with Pallavi Agarwal. She's also a postdoc from another department, and this is all about in the upcoming 15 minutes. I'm talking about all the small events from the past year we try to organize through the committee and for the postdocs. So let me start first to introduce ourselves, that who we are. We are the postdocs, which is the most, I think, the diverse community in any research campus, and yet most transient and dispersed members of a research university. So many of the postdocs arrive without a home department, a nearby family network, or an obvious front door into the campus life. So right now, currently, we are in MSU. There is 570 postdocs, and from 18 colleges representing 76 departments. So I just wanted to read a quote which we got it from our 2026 survey from out by the PDA committee to take the reflection on the past year events. So as it is, I wanted to read. I can attest to how many times I have felt like I'm floating at sea without a clear support structure to look to. So that's the emotional reality behind the numbers. So from our survey, you can see that 71% of the surveyed postdocs identify as international scholars. 53% have been MSU more than 2 years. So this is not a small community build. It's a long haul. So just you need not to address them at only one time. You need to address them for the years and years they are serving in this university as a postdoc. And out of 35% reported that they are caregiving responsibilities that shape when and how they can join the events and how they can socialize with other postdocs and do the other networking events. So this is our model, our strategy, which we worked on from the past year during as a social subcommittee in the MSU PDA committee. So first, there is 3 pillars in this model. The first one, we implemented that postdoc led, that it should be community, that community should design their own belongings, that committee does not decide everything. So we include postdocs by using the different polls about the venue, dates, days before organizing any event, and we also try to gather ideas for future events in the different gatherings, that what they want next. In this way, we try to include them and we try to give them the sense of belongings. Then the second pillar was which we followed, that small budget deliberately, because the MSU postdoc has a budget of firmly $800 per month, and we wanted to make it budget friendly. So of course it forces the creative community driven solutions, carpooling, recycling the left refreshments, packed refreshment from the previous one, all the activities stuff from the previous events. So these are some planning strategies which we deliberately implemented for the events using the small budgets. And the radical transparency, which was the main idea of this postdoc subcommittee events. So whenever the plan slips or some failure came, we say it so publicly without hiding anything from the postdoc, to make it transparency between the committee and the postdocs, so that we can give them the community belongings. As one organizer can put, this maintains the trust among the people and they feel involved. So for that overall model to implement that, the planning has been done by the MSU PDA committee. They meet every Friday for 1 hour. And apart from these, like many different quick meetings, approximately 2 meetings per 2 weeks we did, and we planned accordingly all the small events are based on these 3 pillars. So in this slide, I wanted to tell you that this is all the year plans which we have implemented already, and it was like different very small events which give them the opportunity to meet each other and to come and to stop, to overcome the barriers which is stopping them to come to these events and to do the networking and become socialize and perform intercultural dialogues. So the first one was like ice cream, for example, like ice cream social events, trail walking, some postdoc picnics, fall festival, in which we include like 2 different intercultural events like Diwali and Halloween, and Thanksgiving lunch, spring social events, annual luncheon, bring your own lunch, like very small events we try to implement for postdocs to bring them together. And it was like majorly 9 major touch points in 13 months, roughly 1 gathering every 6 weeks, and keeping the community loop alive year around. So this was our strategies, and this was our implementing. So as I talked about the first pillar, that it should be postdoc led. So this is evidence of that we always gathered the poll. So for example, we gathered the poll for ice cream social event, and they voted for particular day, particular date, which mostly the postdocs feels that they can able to attend the events. So and then accordingly we plan that. So in this way they become involved in all the community events and all the networking social events. They feel involved in the organizing those also. So this was one of the case study which I'm showing from the practical implementations which we did. So it was just showing that we always gather first the institutional trust. We submitted our proposal, budget proposal, and then they approved that, and we gathered the postdoc community for ice cream coupons, providing them and distributing the PDA hoodies, out of which 77% of the order which we ordered, the hoodies we ordered, is all gone so far. So it was a very good successful event at that time, and postdoc community came together. And also I already mentioned that transparency is the key. So we also, like here you can see in this cumulative hoodie distribution chart, that 4%, very handful of coupons and hoodies were unaccounted, and we asked postdocs to give this whoever like forget to sign up for the hoodies or take the hoodies or ice cream coupons, they can come and they can tell us about that. So this is like a both way communication we try to do with them, and to make them feel like they belongs to a community. So this was one of the case study. This is some glimpses from that event in which all the postdocs gathered. They talk about each other backgrounds. They did some intercultural dialogue about each other. So this is all about the events. Then the second case study was fusing traditions. That how can we bring different backgrounds, postdocs come together. Bring together to them. So it was the cases study from the last year event, that it was a fall festival in which we fused 2 events, Diwali and Halloween. So for us, it's like giving them the opportunity to talk about each other and to talk about their tradition, their culture. They are from different cultures. They are big while doing some activities, via painting, pumpkin carving, so they can feel relaxed in that environment and talk to each other. So of course there is like different activities we try to design to make them engage to each other, like costume theme encouraged to the participants to show the creativity for their Diwali attire, so for their Halloween attire, and different dish competition, like we welcome the homemade food so that people can know more about their different cultures, different foods. So that's the main idea behind these events. Specifically, so we try them to encourage to make the teams and come together and do the activities and engaged as much as possible, so that they can feel inclusive. So this was some glimpses from the last fall festival, Diwali plus Halloween, and this that was a success. And almost I remember that 60 plus postdocs engaged in this event, and it was really successful. And this is the third case study. It's only based on that how we try to lower the budget as much as possible and let them engage as much as possible. So this was the kayaking event in which in different kind of ideas we implemented, like for example for the carpooling we reduced the transportation cost almost $0 to every postdoc to do the carpooling, and encourage them to do the carpooling and bring together all the postdoc to the particular venue where the event is. So these are the some case studies which we implemented in real, and we came up with really good responses, which I am just about to talking about, which we got from our MSCO PDA survey to 2026. It was a review from the last year events. So this is the glimpse of kayaking event. So yeah, so it's this slide is talking about all about measuring impact, which postdoc committee put on the postdoc community. So this is about like 71% identified as international scholars, which filled the survey, in which I already told that 53% have been at MSU more than 2 years, 76% work in STEM fields, with the rest spanning health science, social science, interdisciplinary research. So very diverse, very diverse background they are from, and 29% would like to bring family to PDA events but haven't yet had the chance. So these are some things we got to know from the reflections we got from through that survey. And so impact evidence. So this is what changed for postdocs who attended. So out of the survey, we got to know the data. We got to know that 77% felt a stronger sense of belonging at MSU after these all community events we organized, and 69% were motivated to engage more with the local or global community, which sounds like very good impact on postdoc community. 73% named building relationship across cultures as their most valuable takeaway from those events. So this, these values and this percentage are really encouraging for us as a committee to go forward and to do more for these community who often feel isolated from after coming there as a postdoc. Of course, we are not cherry picking. So 23% reported no change, our honest baseline for continued growth. So that's all over the survey who answered the outcomes. So this is one of the impact evidence which I wanted to read, personally, and as it is without any, changes. So from our annual lunch on event, one of the postdocs said that the lunch on strengthened our sense of community and reminded us of the importance of creating opportunities for postdocs to learn from, support, and celebrate one another. And from our social events, one said that it gives a nice platform to meet and see your fellow colleagues and improve belonging. This is one of my favorite, the closing survey comment one of the postdoc gave: the creativity, commitment, and enthusiasm of the social subcommittee have contributed significantly to creating opportunities for connection, fellowship, and community among our postdocs. So these are, as it is, comments we got it through the survey from the postdocs who in real they feel belongings to the community.
Dr.
So this
Sharma,
is,
once again, I apologize for interrupting. Could you please wrap it up in 1 or 2 minutes? Thank you.
yeah, surely. So this is all about the satisfactions. They got like 53% shows that they are very satisfied with all the social events. This is the top barriers which we came up after that survey results came out. So like work, lab scheduling conflicts, timing, several events run outside standard work hours, transportation, especially the postdocs who are working remotely outside the East Lansing campus, caregiving responsibilities limiting them evening and weekend events. So these are like not very impossible barriers. They are fixable, so we are working on that. So they are asking for different intercultural potlucks, exchange evenings, my journey to MSU storytelling night, so that they can connect more about sharing their migration and academic journeys. Events beyond East Lansing, yes, absolutely. That's like out of the campus, postdocs also can feel belonging, and we can acknowledge them. Shorter midweek workday friendly formats for caregivers. So from small events to global citizens, in this way we try to address these top barriers. Low barrier contact, like lower the cost of showing up, which leads to peer-led exposure. Postdoc hosted workshops, which leads to transparent trust. Which I told you that transparency is the key for our model. And then from the survey, we got to that 77% of engaged respondents report a stronger sense of belongings. And then it's like all together leads to global citizen identity. So they feel how postdocs see themselves as global scholars. So we are planning to do this next, like different events and whatever they ask us for, like my journey to MSU storytelling series. So slowly we are working on that, and we will go forward. So I would like to close my presentation with the last remark, which I would really, like to speak as it is. In my 3 years as an MSU postdoc, we have not had it so good. The creativity, commitment, and enthusiasm of social subcommittee have contributed significantly to creating opportunities for connection, fellowship, and community. So that's all about our model and our implementations last year.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharma. I hope all of us enjoyed this presentation. Thanks a lot for your engaging and inspiring presentation. We appreciate you sharing your valuable insights and experience on a youth-led approach to postdoc community building. Our next presenter is Professor Dr. Cheryl Kickett-Tucker. Professor Cheryl Kickett-Tucker, AMFAHA, a Wajuk Waladong Yod Nongar, woman from the southwest of Western Australia, is Professor of Aboriginal Education, Community and Wellbeing at Curtin University's School of Education and lead researcher of the Mombaki Cultural Learnings Project. Dr. Cheryl, please feel free to correct me if I mispronounce any names or words during your introduction. So Professor Cheryl was made a member of the Order of Australia AM in recognition of her contributions to Aboriginal education and community well-being. Mombaki is an Aboriginal-led initiative combining virtual reality, classroom learning, and on-country experience to strengthen Noongar children's connection to identity, culture, and kin. Developed with Aboriginal elders, families, and educators across 3 Perth schools, and in partnership with Michigan State University's Professor Deirdre Johnson, Mombaki has shown how community-led, culturally grounded education can transform Aboriginal students' well-being, pride, and school engagement. Her research centers on Aboriginal identity and self-esteem, and she developed the IRISEC toolkit used across the project. She also brings over 20 years of community leadership through Koya Aboriginal Corporation. Professor Cheryl, please proceed with your presentation.
I want to acknowledge Dr. Professor Deborah Johnson, who has been a chief investigator on a 5-year Australian Research Council grant. This work is kind of groundbreaking in that the outcomes of not only growing and strengthening the identity and well-being of children, but doing it with building, virtual reality game and iPad games, and also classroom activities and resources and a whole swathe of surveys that we had done with them. I'm not going to do a typical academic presentation. This is going to be, I guess, some of the main things that we've found in our study, and I guess the global learning for anyone working with young people out there or young people themselves. So I hope you enjoy this. I'm just trying to move it. So first of all, let me get my screen up. I don't know why it's going a bit nutty. Maybe because I'm down under. Speaker. I'm going to have to turn this way because this is where my screen is. Apologise. So before we start, I'm a traditional owner of Wajak Noongar Budja, which is my traditional area here in Perth in Western Australia. We call Perth Buru. And I just want to pay my respects to the elders and the ancestors, the community which East Lansing sits. I'm not going to try to pretend to say these names correctly, but I know that there are the kinship groups have come together called the Three Fires Confederacy on the East Lansing lands. So on behalf of my elders and my people, I'm very grateful to be here, and I hope and pray that the good spirits allow us all to return home today, and thank you for all coming. Oh, sorry, I'm having a bit of an issue. Oh no, it's okay. I need to explain my people. And this is a map of before colonisation. There was over 500 language groups in around the continental Australia, and so I just want to share that with you so you get an idea of the minuteness of the people that I represent. Because from that all of Australia, I come from the southwest corner of Western Australia. And in that blue component there, my people are the Wajak people, which is near Perth. But I've also got connections right through all these language groups. There's 14 language groups in my community of the Noongar people. And in the metropolitan area of Perth, these are the Wajak people's territories. These are not colonial names, these are our names. This is what the names we use. These are the things that I teach kids in our program that we built using this ARC study. This is an aerial view of Perth in Western Australia. We believe that the lands and the waterways were created by the rainbow serpent, the Waggle, and you can see how the river tributaries here are actually like a snake. Land is very important to us. We call it Budja. It is our Mother Earth, and it positions us in everything that we do. I actually live in the hills in a place, Noongar place, we call it Karamoro, on Wiups Budja. I live in the hills, and this is what kind of looks like where I am. Dr. Jimmy Bruce and Dr. Deborah Johnson have been here. They've been to this country here, have seen this land. I need to give you an update on Aboriginal people in Western Australia. There's not many of us, very, very small community of Indigenous people in this country, in this state. We only make a very small portion of our Aboriginal the WA population. The thing is, the majority of Aboriginal people in my state live in the area where I currently live and work, and that's in the hills. And most of our people are 25 years and under, and over a third are of school age. We have a very young population. A lot of our old people are dying at phenomenal, early in their life from a raft of health and wellbeing issues, and they're quite documented all over the world, as you would know. So all of my work over the past 30-odd years being an Aboriginal person in this country has come from a rights perspective, that, the United Nations Convention does state that we have a right, to preserve our identity, and, that it should not be, it should be celebrated by people around us, and also by us to freely, determine that and what that actually means to us. That picture there is a photograph of an Aboriginal warrior in a place called Binjarra. It's phenomenal when they actually put this up, and it meant a lot to our people, even because there's a lot of statues of white people, white explorers in this country still to this day, and to get something like this of our people is important, particularly when you're trying to build the capacity of Aboriginal kids to learn their culture and language and learn about their journey towards their identity and self-esteem. I hope my accent's not too strong. When I first started on this journey of looking into Aboriginal children and young people's identity and self-esteem, one of the first things I did was a qualitative study back a long way ago, back in 2009, and it was Morn Judda, how come I don't fit in? You know, I'm black, I'm white. Where do I fit in this society when everybody's got something to say about who I am, particularly teachers in schools who pigeonhole our children at a very young age, and it's generally really low expectations. It's not good, and it hasn't changed very much at all in this country, despite the constant fighting and the challenges that we as researchers have when we want to implement and develop programs for our people. The country is not interested in it, and it's actually getting worse. So what I'm about to share with you, you know, we don't stop as Aboriginal folk. We have a warrior spirit inside us, and nothing will prevent us from stopping. But this part that I'm going to share with you now is the story of a program that's built to answer this question. But the thing is, it was built by children and young people. They were the centerpiece of everything that I'm going to share with you right now. I do have a global angle to this, so that learnings that we learnt may help First Nations and other diverse youth around the world. So I'm hoping that will come through. So Mumbaki Korabuja, there's two words. One of them, Mumbaki, is a Noongar word, which is my people. It means where the rivers meet the horizon. Korabuja it means your heart center, or the center of your heart. And everything we do in my community, in all my research, yes, I can put the Western science up here and show you all that. I ain't doing that today. I'm going straight to the guts of everything. And, you know, for us, identity is the heart and the heartbeat of everything we do. If we don't have that, we have nothing. And from that, you know, we build our culture, we strengthen our culture, we strengthen our language. And it's really important because my language is one of the most endangered languages in this country. So, you know, identity is called the global lesson for everyone out there, things that we had learned ourselves through this process. Is identity is called a Buja. It's the center, it's the heart. It grows the way that Mumbaki's rivers move, like meandering and chasing a horizon to reach a destination of pride, strength, passion, and happiness. You know, just a picture of the kids that were in our study out in the bush. And Mumbaki is a Noongar word. It does mean where the rivers meet the sky, or where the rivers meet the horizon, and those symbols underneath are symbols in our culture that mean waterways. And so there are 7 waterways in my traditional country, and this is why this logo was really important for us, because the imagery and the photographs and the uniforms that kids wear when we did this activity, they all got the hoodies and all those things with these colouring, which is the Aboriginal colours of our flag as well. So it's really important. This journey of developing Mumbaki with children and young people started, 5 years ago. We worked in 3 government schools in Western Australia, and that is primary schools. So 6 years of age up to 12 years of age, primarily with those young people. We call, in Aboriginal terms, youth are generally anywhere between 10 upwards. We call young people, so they're included. This program of work started in a primary school with very young children, but we have plans to build this with teenagers in high schools. So that's coming. But basically, this program allowed us to build local place-based Aboriginal resources and materials from the kids themselves, and build it in a multi learning platform of resources, and I'll come to that in a minute. But the global lesson in building this, it took a long time, but we were looking at equity, and equity starts where community leads. You know, you can't go anywhere with equity unless the community leads, particularly in our community. It's not what policy dictates us to be and go to. And the schools on my territory became proof that was strong enough for the world. Like the way we did things, we know that the methodology could be applied across any First Nations or any diverse communities across the world, which we're really proud of. Basically, we had 7 modules, and 1 week we would do a interactive class module inside the classroom. Sorry, not an interactive, typical paper and pens and, PowerPoint presentations of learning these lessons and themes. And the second week we repeat the first theme, like Buja, which means place or country or home, and we do it interactively on an iPad and on a VR game that we built with the children. So the thing about this, how we built this program, we listened to the children and their parents and their grandparents, but we also listened to the young people that were going into high school, the older children. And the thing about this, the global lesson for those out there is the best curriculum isn't inherited, it's built. First Nations youth everywhere have the knowledge, because they do. They know what they need, and they just need the chance to put it on the page, the screen, the wall, or even a song. We actually came up with a song called the Mumbaki Rap with these young children, and we sang it and danced it at an international festival and won a big prize for it. It was really good. So this program is really based on language, and so we had to get the right words and the right language, because we are a verbal community of knowledge and transmission of knowledge. So having it written down, it wasn't. It's really hard to grab bits and pieces, but people have done the orthography of my language, and so we had to go back to square one and relearn it all and how to rebuild it and put it into our program. But the thing I want to say here is language revival is identity revival for any First Nations community that tries it. And so, if you can see in that picture, our elder there was talking about all these artifacts we've got there, but he was doing it in language, so they get to see and touch and hold and also hear. And that was really important for us. Going to the fun stuff, the kids helped build all this. We had, like I said, activity handouts, we had iPad learning games, and we had the Mumbaki Nyunga Quest, which is a VR game. The thing I need to say about the game, when the kids had, we did these yarning circles with the children and the youth, and they wanted to depict colonisation in our country when our people first saw the ships coming, centuries ago. And so one of the ways that the kids wanted to explain that and actually fight back, because in our stories we have been telling our children we are warriors, but our education system says the other, that we didn't fight back. And so Aboriginal kids wanted to, in the Nyunga quest, in that piece for that particular week, they built a 3-headed emu to spit out fire and attack the ships coming in. And it's all been played out on this game. And so when the children who invented that piece saw it play out on the game, they couldn't believe that their ideas were coming to fruition. And I tell you, the change in them when their words mattered and we listened and we put it into the game really meant, I just can't even describe what it meant to them, The thing is, again, the global lesson here is culture travels furthest when First Nations youth co-design the technology themselves, and this is what they did here. So we were really pleased, and now we've built these little minds who are just generating all sorts of things, and so, technological-wise, and it's really good in an education space. Here's just another photograph of a couple of the kids out the VR goggles, because there was a lot of testing going on. There was a lot of building of the totems. Each child received a totem, which is congruent to our society as Aboriginal people, and then they play the game with their totem and they look after their totem. On the side there, that is a game that we had cards, and we had that on the iPad, They're learning the emotion karang, which means angry. You know, you're to pick the answer. And so children who are, you know, ADHD and got learning difficulties and don't go to school, they were racing to our classes because they knew we were there. As soon as they saw our T-shirts, which these two young men are wearing, they couldn't wait to get to class to do our activities. And so our attendance rate in our classes was phenomenal, which the teachers couldn't get if we weren't there. So that was amazing. And to watch children who have, you know, learning difficulties play these games, and they may not be great on pen and paper activities, but to do this was, again, another step in the right direction for us to be able to share the goodness of the kids who built the program for kids and for youth.
Dr. Searle, I'd like to request you to conclude it in a 1 or 2 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we can't do any of this without other people. We did this with our community. We did this with an elder circle. We did it with a corporation, and we did it to grow young leaders. And so the global lesson and all of this, you can't do it on your own. You know, identity is never a young person's to build alone. It's always determined long before them. We are born into a story. You know, our ancestors give us this information. You know, our identity as young people is held by our elders in our community, but they are leading and mentoring the young ones. So it's a sphere of integrated, connected kinship systems that mean so much to us, and we cannot do any of this without all of us together. Sorry. The thing I want to say here is this has been a really important piece of work because the youth are co-creators. They're not recipients. We don't just hand them something. They're part of this process from the start to the finish and everything in between, and also the future, because we're building into the future. One thing I would say here is the storytelling as pedagogy was a typical teaching way for our people is very much in our program. The global lesson in all of this is if you don't fit in, you know, how come I don't fit in, is never answered by slogan. It's answered by community, country, and language, and every continent, including the great old United States of America, holds a young person asking it, and every continent holds an answer waiting in its own soil. We've all got the answers. So at the end of the day, whoever's sitting on the end of this screen and anyone I can reach out to, there is a life journey. You don't have to choose one world or the other. If you're a young person transversing, you know, then you can read all that yourself. But at the end of the day, you know, empowerment isn't given. It's created, it's imagined, and it's built. But we have to help our children and allow them to stand with confidence in that space, whatever they choose. And I always say to young people, onwards and upwards. And here I'll say to you, go find yours and let it hold you in whatever you might want to do and serve in your life. Thank you very much for listening to me. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Searle. As a scholar in language and literacy, multilingual and bilingual children, I really found it to be very important and insightful presentation. I hope all of us greatly enjoyed learning about your important work, and thank you so much for your contribution. So our final presenter is Dr. Stacey Forsyth, who will be presenting Build a Better Book, Youth Engineering Design for a More Accessible World. Dr. Stacey Forsyth is the director of CU Science Discovery, a K-12 STEM education organization at the University of Colorado Boulder, and co-PI for the National Spencer Foundation funded Build a Better Book project, which engages youth in the design of accessible tactile materials for people with visual impairments. She collaborates with campus and community partners to develop, implement, and evaluate innovative STEM education experiences for K-12 students and teachers, including summer and after-school classes, teen internships, teacher workshops, and community engagement programs. Stacey aims to inspire and support youth to ask questions and develop creative solutions for real-world problems, and to expand opportunities for youth to explore STEM fields. Prior to joining the University of Colorado Boulder. Stacey taught biology at St. Anselm College and led science outreach efforts at the University of Arizona's Bio5 Institute, BIO5 Institute. She holds a PhD in ecology and evolutionary biology from the University of Arizona. Dr. Stacey, welcome to the session, and we are delighted to have you with us. Please begin your presentation.
Thanks so much. Just want to make sure you can hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, terrific. I will go ahead and share my screen here. All right, can everyone see that okay? All right, great. Well, thanks so much for the opportunity to share a little bit about our project here today. Excited to be with you all. As was mentioned in the introduction, I'm going to be sharing a bit about one of our STEM education initiatives that we have here at CU Science Discovery called Build a Better Book, which has grown into kind of much more extended collaboration with some different entities around the country. Just wanted to recognize our team. This project has been done over the past 10 years or so, involving a lot of people from around our campus, community, and the country, and just want to give a shout out to them here. But first, to kick things off, I want you all to kind of think of a favorite game that you might have. It might be a game that you played when you were younger, maybe something you enjoy playing as an adult. It could be a board game, a card game. And now take a minute to think about, would you still be able to play that game? Would it be playable and fun if you weren't able to see? This is the kind of design challenge that the youth participating with us on our Build a Better Book initiative tackle when they work on projects through Build a Better Book. Essentially, we're working to gather community requests from people who work with children or youth who are blind or have a visual impairment, and working with them to engage in real-world engineering design exercises in order to create a product that might benefit someone else. So the game is just one type of example. This is an example of a product that might actually be created by interns. This is actually kind of hot off the press. It was a recent example of something worked on this summer by some of our interns. And it's a game, a tactile version of a classic code-breaking game called Mastermind. If you're not familiar with it, it's a logic puzzle type code-breaking game that typically uses color and has children guessing the order of a code. In this case, our interns worked to make a more accessible tactile version of that using different shapes rather than colors, and fabricating it on a 3D printer. So last week I had the great fortune of connecting with one of our community partners, a little girl named Juniper. She's shown in the middle of that photo on the left, and she's having a chance to play that game for the first time. And provided us with some great feedback. So this was just a prototype. She had a lot of input on how our interns could make it better, but overall it was a great success. She was really enthusiastic and excited to have a chance to play this game because it's the games available to her as a young girl with limited vision are really limited. So just wanted to kind of kick things off with an example like this. We are now have been working with community partners all around on this initiative for the past decade or so. The project has really evolved over the years, and I just wanted to share some of what we've learned through this experience and share some examples of what the project looks like now in some kind of more current iteration. Let's see, essentially in the project, we're working with youth across a fairly wide range of ages to use different maker technologies to design more accessible learning materials for children and youth who are blind or have some type of visual impairment. In this slide, you see some students working on the left to create a tactile Wordle board to play the game Wordle. There's an electronic toy in the middle and a student loading a 3D printer with filament. I'm going to sharing a lot of photos throughout this presentation just to share how this project has looked at different sites and in different formats, and hopefully spark some ideas if you know of a makerspace educator in your community who might like to connect with this effort. This project actually was the brainchild of a collaborator of ours here on the CU Boulder campus named Tom Ye. He was interested in testing the effectiveness of using 3D printing to help make tactile picture books more accessible for children who are blind. The library of tactile materials for people who are blind is quite limited. The materials are also very expensive for people to purchase. And so, unlike a sighted child who might have many picture books to help learn language and develop a love of reading, that library is a lot more limited for children who aren't able to see. He initially began testing with some students in his lab, the kind of using 3D printing to create tactile versions of existing children's books. These were some early designs that came out of his lab and helped reveal a lot of the challenges inherent to making really effective tactile graphics, as well as some of the limitations of using 3D printing to do that. But when we first heard about this project, as K-12 educators who are working with youth every day, we thought there was a lot of potential in this project to engage youth in this effort and hopefully excite them about learning some of these STEM and engineering design skills as they work to participate and contribute to this project. So our first iteration of this project really was focused on using different technologies to help make tactile pictures and tactile storybooks for children. We were working with elementary students, middle school students across a wide range of ages, primarily in more shorter term formats, like in classroom settings, summer camps. But what we found was really exciting. The students kind of approached this from a lot of different exciting ways, whether they were using basic craft materials or whether they were using more advanced technologies like 3D printers and soundboards. Here are just a few images of some 3D printed pages, some handcrafted pages. We had students using swell paper technology, adding Braille to their works. And soon, based on feedback we were receiving from some children who were blind in our community, we started going beyond books and making learning models, some STEM tools, and games because kids wanted to play. So here are a few examples of some of the early games that were coming out of these programs. Where the students participating in this effort were co-designing alongside teens who were blind or visually impaired, helping to create more accessible versions of the games they wanted to play. So some of what we learned over these first few years were that this design challenge was really motivating for youth. We had a strong interest from educators, but saw a lot of interest among the kids that were participating in that they were really excited to create something for others. They were really driven to help complete their project and to work and refine and make it better. It was a really adaptable project, could adapt to the types of learning settings, different types of learning settings, as well as an array of different types of technologies. So classes could participate whether they just were working with cardboard and basic craft materials or whether they had an more advanced makerspace. And of course, we saw a real substantial community need for more effective learning materials that were tactile or accessible in other ways. We also encountered some limitations, obviously. A lot of these maker technologies themselves aren't very accessible, so that could be challenging when we were working with blind co-designers. There are limitations of 3D printing. The project worked best when we had real true involvement from the blind and low vision community. So having organizations and individuals that we could partner with in an authentic way was really important. And participants who were working on these projects really wanted more time for iterative design so that they could really incorporate users' feedback and help make their products better. Using kind of these early lessons, we morphed the project into a second phase where we were able to provide youth with a more extended time working with us on this effort. So we restructured the program to be more of a high school teenage internship program that could be more like a real world engineering design experience. But we wanted to test this at different learning settings from a university, a high school class, a science center, and a library makerspace. Regardless of setting, though, we wanted all of these internship programs to really focus on having an authentic community-driven project, collaboration with a community client who could provide input, feedback, participate in the design process, and then to provide enough time for testing, iteration, and project completion. So I just wanted to share some photos of what this looked like in practice. We've held the internship for several years at our site here in Colorado. Students have used a variety of different technologies, from computer programming and coding to electronics, 3D printing, laser cutting. A few of the efforts here were a light box that would be appropriate for young children who were blind and or had a condition called CVI. We have some tactile memory game cards up in the top right, which are 3D printed. And those were designed to be easily replicable. So if someone has access to a 3D printer, maybe at their library or school, they can easily print off a set for their own family. And in the lower right is a project still in process, which is a tactile periodic table with 3D printed braille. We've worked with several different organizations around the country to help test out this internship program at their sites as well. We have a really remarkable partnership with a high school in New Jersey that was drawn to this project because they wanted a longer-term engineering project that would bring together some of the different schools their students were working on, but also have more of a community service component. And so at their site, student teams are paired with a young child from a school in their community serving students with special needs. They learn about their child's abilities, interests, and work throughout their school year to design an electronic toy that is customized for that child and brings together some of the different skills that they've been learning in their STEM classes. We work with a science center in New Mexico that was interested in making some of their exhibit spaces as well as their mobile education kits more accessible. And we've had a terrific partnership with a library makerspace in New Jersey that has developed some really strong connections with a blind serving school in their area, as well as a deaf serving organization, and really had some a variety of different projects they've worked on. You can see in the lower left there, those are some 3D printed braille beads that was requested and designed by an intern who was working with the team, who was blind herself and wanted braille jewelry that was cooler than some of the other things that she had received before. Those are crayon caps that provide a braille label for young children who are learning to color. These are some really cool 3D printed a braille map on the left and an overlay for a synthesizer on the right. Those were both designed for the intern in the previous image, who went on to New York University and is currently studying music technology there. So these were tools that she requested both to get familiar with her new campus, as well as to use some of the technology that she was using in her education.
Dr. Stacey, I'd like to interrupt you and request you to conclude it in a minute or two to allow our expert to express some of his opinions regarding today's presentation before we move to the main session. Thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
Okay, here are some tactile ASL models. These are hand models of American Sign Language letters that they worked on for an organization in their community. We've seen some really, I'll be really short here, seen some really remarkable impacts on the youth, both in their interest in engineering, the development of STEM skills, their confidence in participating in these tasks, and also much broader and greater awareness of accessibility issues. I want to take the story back to Juniper, the little girl I mentioned in that first slide, because when I think about youth changing the world, she's a little girl that I think of. She's one of our community partners. She's legally blind herself and has worked with our partners at that library in New Jersey to create a really remarkable resource. She's really loves math, uses an abacus to learn math herself, and worked with her mom to develop this multimodal book that comes with a 3D printed abacus she helped the library design. In it, it's a story that she created. It features illustrations that show her handcrafted pictures And it comes with that abacus to help teach other kids how to use an abacus to learn math. Can check out our partners at Clover Nook Books. They do some amazing work, and they're the current distributors of Juniper's book. She and her mom are also starting a social initiative called Braille Forward to really help raise awareness about Braille. And see here. Oh, I can't get to my last slide, but if you're interested, I don't know why I can't. Oh, just again, broader impact is really raising students' awareness about accessibility, which we have it's been really wonderful to see that awareness in our participants. And if you'd like any additional information about the project, sorry to wrap it up so quickly, you can visit our website, buildabetterbook.org. And I will stop my share.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stacey, for your excellent presentation. And I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to all 4 presenters who shared your work with us today. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Taravara to share his reflections, comments, and questions regarding today's presentation.